Perfect. Can everyone hear me? Great. First of all, I would like to thank CODART so much for inviting me and being able to hold this talk here, especially because I'm hoping to see you all again next year, but more on that later. My name is Anne-Linde Ruiter. I am a researcher at Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen, where the past year I have been researching the lives and motives of 5 female donors in the museum's history, but again, more on that later. Today, I would like to talk briefly about how Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen is recovering overlooked contributions of female donors to its collection. Recent years have seen a surge in scholarly interest in the role female artists, collectors, and donors played in shaping the Dutch art market and museum collections, with the rise of excellent research projects like the Female Impact, Women of the Rijksmuseum, and The Other Half. In 2023, in collaboration with the latter project, which focuses on women actors in the Dutch art world between 1780 and 1980, Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen chose to re-examine its institutional history, asking for the first time what contributions women donors made to its collections. Spoiler alert, it was large. It began with the project Nagelaten in 2023, which mapped biographical information about the museum's female donors and legislators. This research was followed by my current project, De Onzichtbare Hand, or The Invisible Hand, which closely examined the lives and motivations of 5 female donors in the museum's history. Women who, as it turned out, like so many, were not actually invisible, but simply left out of our institutional history. The results of this research will not only be integrated in our own museum system, but also in public output. Last year, art historian Martine Bontjes designed a new guided tour that is inclusive of the museum's female donors and legislators. In autumn of this year, the museum will publish its scholarly journal Boijmans Studies, which focuses specifically on the museum's female donors and legislators. And next year, the museum will present an exhibition about the works donated only by women titled Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen, Female Donors 1849-Present. In 2023, Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen was granted an NWO Museumbeurs to conduct research into the role female donors and legislators played in its institutional history. By conducting archival research, re-examining the museum's historic reports, and using data scraping, researcher Bram Donders mapped the number of female donors in the museum's almost 200-year history for the very first time, providing essential information such as their names, their socio-economic background, their marital status, and connections to the city of Rotterdam. These results were integrated into TMS, our museum system. Following this project, the museum was granted funding from its Bröcker Fonds and the Vereniging Rembrandt to continue its research of female donors. It allowed me the unique opportunity to spend a year researching the lives, background, and motivations of 5 specific female donors who were selected on the basis of their importance to the museum's history. They are Margrethe Cornelia Boulaert, Cornelia Marjolein Scheffer, Louise de Graaf Regina, and the sisters-in-law Grada Nicoline van Beek Donner and Elisabeth Eibeltje van Beek van Hoorn Jansen, a mouthful. The intention was that this research would result in essays of 4,000 words each, which were to be published in the museum's journal in 2026. I am not the only contributor to this wonderful edition of the Boijmans Studies. We were planning multiple authors, but as word caught on, more and more people volunteered to write essays for the study. The publication will include contributions by Sandra Kisters, our Director of Collections and Research, as well as our curators Peter van der Koele, Rosie Razel, and Alexandra van Dongen. Furthermore, Evelien de Visser will write about the sisters Grieti and Georgette Petronelle van Stolk, Jacqueline van Paas will pen an essay about Marie Tak van Poortvliet, Chris van Weel will write about Mathilde Cohen-Tervaerts Israël, Martine Bontjes about Betsy Westerop-Ossiek, and Bram Donders about Theodora Jacoba Hinsens-Jacob. The women who donated or legislated art to the museum had varied backgrounds and motivations. They were collectors, wealthy Rotterdam citizens, and sometimes they were friends or family members of museum directors. For example, Cornelia Marjolein Scheffer, who donated 3 artworks to the museum, was the daughter of the artist Arie Scheffer and related to 2 of the museum directors, Arie Lamme and his son Dirk Lamme. She only donated during the directorship of her 2 cousins. Louise de Graaf Regina was friends with former director Dirk Hannema, disgraced after the Second World War. he urged her to donate works from her collection after the death of her husband. An important motivation for various donors was a fire in 1864, during which large portions of the collection were lost, especially the drawings collection and especially the Italian drawings collection. It was what prompted Scheffer to donate, as well as what prompted Margarethe Cornelia Boulaert and Cornelia Schuurman-Slipping to donate. Schuurman-Slipping's donation of prints and drawings was actually intended to restore Boijmans' previously large collection of drawings. Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen was named for two male collectors, Frans Jacob Otto Boijmans and Daniel George van Beuningen, whose collections helped shape today's museum. They are far from the only donors, of course. Many other men and women, as we have found out, played a vital role in shaping the museum's collection. In our exhibition, Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen, playfully named for the museum's female rather than male donors, we will show a selection of the drawings, design, paintings, and sculptures that were donated by women in its 178-year history. The exhibition will be curated by Rosie Razzle and is scheduled for autumn 2027. The exhibition will open with a short film with an explanation of the exhibition and the research process behind it, as well as an introductory text and photographs and/or portraits, if available, of various female donors featured in the exhibition. Thereafter, the focus lies largely on the artworks themselves, which are arranged chronologically and stylistically. The exhibition features old master paintings and drawings, impressionist art, modern design, and so much more. It was a challenge selecting art for the 2027 exhibition, mainly because we can only show a small selection of the more than 10,000 objects donated by women. We have largely focused, therefore, on paintings and objects that have been celebrated in the museum's history, as well as works we intend to feature in the permanent collection display after the museum's reopening in 2030. In the following few minutes, I would like to take you through them. First of all, we have a wonderful selection of old masters. The four upper paintings you see were actually donated by the same woman, Gesine Johanna Palte-Bos. She is not part of the Boijmans study, but we have done some archival research into her. Very interesting woman who divorced her first husband at 40 years old, moved to France, and then decided to either start collecting paintings or collect it together with her husband. She had a huge selection of paintings from old masters to more modern. Included in this section will also be a selection of old master drawings, which are mainly from the collection of Cornelia Schuurman-Slipping, such as the Handhorst you see below. Next, we have a selection of more realist and romantic paintings, varying. What we found very interesting was that while we might expect traditionally, as has been proven to be untrue, more flowers and still lifes and such, we also found many nudes and paintings of ships. So we decided to also make a selection of the more typically masculine genres, including Rousseau and the Albertus van Beest paintings you see here. What's interesting is we have Albertus van Beest both by, I think, 2 or 3 female collectors. Then we have an amazing selection of more impressionist art. Some were collected by Elisabeth Eibeltje van Beek van Hoorn Jansen, and what's interesting is there is a Monet painting that was first collected by Grada Nicoline van Beek Donner, and then after the death of her husband, as thanks for her brother-in-law's help, she gave it to her brother-in-law, and his wife then donated it to Boijmans. So we actually have 2 females connected to the painting. We also have Amsterdam Impressionism and Post-Impressionism, and we have one work we are particularly very proud of that we intend to feature in the permanent collection display when the museum reopens in 2030, so keep that date in mind as well, which is the Ethel Walker, and it's called Lilith, the Wooing Lilith. Ethel Walker was a lesbian Scottish artist, and we think that the painting might have been purchased after the death of the Graaf Regina's husband. And finally, we have a selection of more modern works from various collections. Once again, I would like to emphasize that it was incredibly difficult to make a selection of this at all, but unfortunately, we are confined to a smaller space and we can't show it all, so we'll just have to keep featuring it in our permanent collection display. So finally, in 2027, I would like to welcome you to Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen. Thank you.